Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch, and this is episode number 93. Now, today I had the pleasure of interviewing 70-year-old state, regional, national, world champion, and world record holder, masters track and field athlete Linda Cohn. Now, I met Linda a couple of years ago at the Huntsman Senior Games in St. George, Utah. If you're an athlete and you participate in a sport, you should definitely look into the Huntsman Senior Games. Athletes from all over the world come to town in this beautiful part of Utah, really close to Zion National Park, and they participate in every sport imaginable, and it is a great time and so much fun. Linda pretty much dominated the track and field events that day, and she hasn't stopped. And her story is awesome. She didn't start track and field till she was 50 years old and wanted to start competing because she wanted to participate in the Senior Olympics and felt like track and field might be a good entry point. And looking at all the different events, she finally decided to throw that stick, as she put it, or as we commonly know, the javelin. So anyway, we had a great conversation about her life growing up, how she got into track and field. And the underlying theme for this whole interview was all about community. She looks at track and field and competing as recess. And she's all about encouraging everyone to start their own story. And I am the exact same way. We both are on the same wavelength with that. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. And here we go. Hi, Linda. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful to have you. I have been trying to nudge you to do this podcast for quite some time. I met you last year at a big national, or actually international, track and field meet in Utah, and I've been after you ever since. So I'm thrilled I finally get to see you not only in person through this Zoom interview, but to be able to interview you and share your story, your inspirational and motivational story with so many women who listen to my podcast and who will really enjoy hearing about you. So for my listeners, I am speaking to 70-year-old world record holder, world champion, track and field masters athlete, Linda Cohn. And I ran into Linda again at the Masters Nationals Outdoor Championships in Greensboro back in July. And I immediately went up to her first thing and said, "Remember me?" And so she reluctantly agreed to do this, but she has a great story. And, again, she's proof that age truly is irrelevant, and it doesn't matter. You can be 50, 60, 70 and, start something new and excel at it. So I always like to start the interview hearing about where you were born and your childhood. So take it away.
Okay, I'll take it away. First of all, Helen, it's not that I didn't like you. I'm just a little self-conscious talking about me and my story, but I believe in what you're trying to do. And I really like encouraging women, especially to start being active. So we're in line. So I'm doing this and I'll tell you my story, but it's mainly to encourage everybody else to start their story if they haven't already.
And I love that, to encourage everyone else to start their story. So that's awesome. So let's just, I have to write that down because that's an amazing quote. And let's start talking about your childhood.
Okay. Well, when I was younger, I was totally captivated by the Summer Olympics. I would watch them and think, wow, if I really trained at something, could I have been in the Olympics? And to me, the Olympics were track and field, even though there's a million other events, but that's what called to me. When I was younger, I grew up in California, but I was born in the 50s, and we just didn't really have the athletic opportunities that there are today. When I was younger, one of my elementary school teachers recommended to my parents that they find a softball league for me to play in. And they did. It was recreational, but it was fun. And so that's what I did when I was younger. And somewhere along the way, I'd heard about Senior Olympics, and I heard that when you're 50, you can do it. And I had that in the back of my mind. That's what I'm going to do when I'm older. So it was kind of a goal of mine to stay in shape. And I was born with random athletic ability, and I liked doing, sporty things. So when opportunities came up, I kind of followed them. But I didn't really start doing crazy things until I was 40. And I'd been watching the American Gladiators. I'm married. I've been married 47 years. I have 2 grown sons. But we were watching the American Gladiators, and it was a fun show. And I said, I could do that. And then they had a tryout in my area. There were like 1,300 people that came. I was 40 at the time, and I'm not that big. I'm not that strong looking. And I went, and they had some elimination things that you had to go through in order to progress with the interview. And the first thing was women had to do pull-ups. Well, there were all these very muscle-bound, big women and men, and they weren't able to do pull-ups. And me being not that big, I was able to do it. You had to do 7. And I remember the guy in front of me counting, looking the other way, 1, 2, 3. And when I got to 4, 5, 6, it was exciting. Bottom line, I qualified for the American Gladiators.
Awesome.
Super fun experience. But that was just kind of the start of, okay, something comes up, I'm doing it. My kids got me a bicycle for Mother's Day. I never rode it, but I met someone who was a serious cyclist with the hat and the shirt and the whole deal. And she convinced me to do bike riding with her. And we did a neighborhood bike ride. I fell off the bike, skinned myself. But our next ride was to train for the LA Marathon, their first 23-mile bike ride.
Wow.
And we did it, and it was fun. And then, they have 100-mile bike rides called Centuries. Okay, we did that. And then there was a California AIDS bike ride. It was a fundraiser, and it was a 7-day bike ride from San Francisco to LA. And full disclosure, I'm not a good cyclist, but I did it, and it was fun, and it was fun doing it with other people. And then when I was turning 50, it was kind of a tough year for me and my sisters. My mother had died at the age of 50. So for us, turning that age was something that was a little tough, and we didn't want to focus on it. So I thought, I'll train to run the LA Marathon. Well, distance running is not one of my random athletic abilities. And it was brutal trying to train for it, but we'd signed up for it, a friend and I. On my 50th birthday, I ran my furthest race. It was a practice training run, but it was 10 miles. And then my knee hurt so bad, I said, I'm not going to do this. So I stopped running. And then 3 months later in March, there was the convention before the marathon. And we went and I got all excited and I said, I want to do it tomorrow. So I hadn't run in 3 months, never run more than 10 miles. And one of my sisters said, I'll meet you at mile 15. So somehow I made it to mile 15, jogging the whole way. But after that, there were like 11.2 more miles of pure torture.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But the week after that, I went on one of those long bike rides again, and they give you a little goodie bag. And in that bag was a pamphlet for the Huntsman World Senior Games. And I looked at it and I realized I'm 50. I can do Senior Olympics. So Huntsman in particular has, 30, I don't know how many different things you can do, but I looked at track and field and I was ruling out any running event because of my most miserable experience the week before. But I had a pretty good arm in softball. So I looked at the throwing events and I thought, shot put, that's too heavy. Discus, that's like a frisbee. I'll throw that stick, is exactly what I said. And that's exactly how this whole thing started. And it's absolutely amazing what's happened since then.
It is amazing for you.
Right?
I mean, for me to watch you, for sure.
Right. It's a little crazy. So finding someone to teach me how to throw that stick was not easy. I found eventually a college student, a young man, 18 years old, and I convinced him to teach me, and he taught me how he'd been taught, and I didn't say uncle. And so I learned the proper way how to throw and how to do training for that. And I credit Peter with any success I've had since then. But we were only able to train for about a year and then he moved away. So since then, it's been a little, hit or miss, and my technique has not improved the way it probably should have. But anyway, I've had a wonderful time with all of this. And now you can ask me questions and I'll tell you.
Okay. Well, it's funny because when I first met you, was at the Huntsman Games a couple of years ago. And it's, I went there specifically to throw the javelin and the discus, but you and all the other really great ladies that I met, you're doing everything. You're long jumping, you're high jumping, you're doing all the throwing events. I mean, every single one of them. And even at the big Masters outdoor track and field meet back in July, everybody's doing everything. And so it's just made me think. I mean, I think we talked earlier before we started recording is that, I'm pole vaulting and I've had this nagging right knee injury. So I haven't pole vaulted this year and I want to get back into that. But when I go to these meets, it's not like I'm like, just do it. Just run and jump into the pit.
Yes.
Just run and jump over that bar if you can. I mean, just do it. I mean, that's the whole point. I was just mentioning to you, my last interview was from another gal, Dot Sowerby, and she's 90, and she was at the Masters Games too. And to see these 90-plus-year-old women compete, it was just like, it gave me chills. It gives me chills to even think about it or talk about it now. And how, for my listeners, you can't see Linda, but she's a little petite thing. And when she gets out there and throws that javelin, it's really incredible. I mean, her form is great. That thing just sails, and it really doesn't matter for me, just being a newbie in this whole javelin thing. Your size doesn't really matter. It's really about your technique. And I think you nailed it on the head when you said that your coach taught you the proper way how to throw, and that foundation has taken you where you are today.
That is true. But I think I was kind of predestined to do all of this track and field thing, but I think one of the reasons I was meant to do this was to encourage other people to do it. I think of track and field as recess. As serious as I am about trying to throw the javelin as far as I can, it's all about the fun. It's all about the people. It's all about the experience. And what makes it so much fun to me, I was at a track meet yesterday. There was a woman there, 78 years old, never did it before, just thought, oh, okay, I'll sign up for everything. And we were kind of walking her through, teaching her how to do everything. And the joy, the absolute flat out joy that she was having doing these things, it reinforced in my mind why I do it and why it's so important to get that word out. You don't have to be great. And Helen, you for sure, I would encourage you to do every single event that you think you might want to do, especially a field event. At the throwing events, we are so encouraging and so helpful. I'll be trying to break a world age group record, and someone will say, how do you do this? And I will stop and show them.
I mean, I saw you do it at the track meet. You were actually helping a couple of the gals, and they threw better after you gave them a couple of pointers.
Yeah, it's very hard to find a javelin coach. And that's another thing that I try to do. Wherever and whenever I can, I try to help because I'm having so much fun with it. And if people are interested in it, yeah, you're my people. I'm going to help you. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. And then also, too, I mean, it's kind of funny because I ran track in high school and college. And then so I took this big gap and then I started, doing track and field again in my 60s. And it's funny because you're back at these track meets and it's like a flashback to high school and college because everybody's on a team and everybody's wearing their team logo and their team, get-ups. And I was just like, this is so awesome to see everybody, cheering everybody on and everybody is part of this team and this community. And that to me is so fun. And then you get to see people like, for example, with bodybuilding for me, I'm actually going to a bodybuilding show this weekend in Texas. I'm not competing, but I'm just going to, because a lot of my friends are competing and I'm just going and we're all going to have a great time and everybody lives all over the country and we're all just coming together. And it's the same for the track and field. I mean, people are living all over the country coming together and, it's kind of that same, camaraderie. It's infectious. It really, really is.
Okay, so you made me think of something. Track and field is a very individual sport. I mean, you are out there doing your own thing. You're not like on a football team. However, being a part of a team or a group when you're working together makes it that much more fun. I wound up being president of a team that I really am connected with, the Southern California Striders. I'll invite anybody to join. It's not like, we're trying to win because we have the team with the best athletes. It's about that camaraderie. It's about the fun of being together, going to these track meets far away. And there you are. You're with your track and field family. And then the thing about Huntsman is people come there from literally all over the world. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be my 20th year going there, which I still can't believe. But I have seen people year after year. I have friends in Barbados, for God's sakes. And it's just so much fun to see them. I can't say strongly enough how much fun this is to be a part of this world. You don't have to start out being a great athlete. All you have to do is have an interest in it, and it will add so much to your life. I had no idea when I started that track and field would be such a big part of my life and all I wanted to do was to compete. At that first Huntsman game, I just wanted to compete. And then I wanted to win, of course, but then I found out that there were state meets and national meets and international meets. And I've been to 4 different international track meets. And if you don't think that's fun, And I had no idea that it was going to lead there when I just started. All you have to do is start and then be aware of the opportunities that present themselves. Another thing that's really important to me is I'll go to these track meets and there'll be these women cheering on their husbands. And, I'll talk to them and I'll say, why aren't you doing something? And they're like, oh, no. I am here to support my husband. And I said, you know what? It's a lot more fun if you do it. Just try. And it's really important that you share this with people when you're having so much fun.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And a lot of the things that I promote on my podcast is that, to reach out and being part of a community, it helps you show up. It helps you hold yourself accountable because, you have to show up for practice. You have to show up at the meets and knowing that there's other people there who are going to hold you accountable and help you celebrate your wins, but also your defeats. If you get injured, let's just talk about, like, for example, in your 20 years now, injuries and, setbacks and obstacles that have, popped up on, during your way.
Let me just say, I am so thankful and so grateful. And I honestly can't think of any major physical injury that has limited me. And I know they exist because I have friends and people that I compete with that I've seen have major issues. However, they've come back from those, and it's absolutely amazing to see what they're able to do. An injury didn't stop them. And it's really impressive that they're back, and some of them are better than ever. There's one woman, masters track and field, who just had a hip resurfaced a while ago. She's a better athlete than she ever was before. And everybody's saying, I want to get my hip resurfaced. It's interesting. But no, personally, thank God, my experience has not been overcoming injury.
Well, that's good. That's good. I wish I could say the same.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. Because I think also, too, when you do get injured and you're forced to pause and, take a step back, all of us are so used to being so active and so full of life and always moving. And then when you stop because you have to recover, it's hard for us to really make ourselves stop and take the time to recover because we're just so anxious to get back at it. And so I've been down that road with my bodybuilding and then even like right now with this track and field stuff. But it's always going to be there. I might be a little bit older when I get back into it. But that's one thing about, you mentioned earlier is that, there's no age restriction in this, in track and field or really any sport. It's really, and the Huntsman is I think the first time I went, I was overwhelmed at, there must be 100 different sports. Cornhole, badminton, volleyball, swimming, archery. And it was, St. George, Utah is one of the most prettiest places. I think when I drove in for the first time, I was like in awe of how gorgeous it was and just breathtaking. And it's like spread out all over the city. And so well organized. I can't say enough great things about the games, and I'll be disappointed that I can't go this year, but
next year.
But definitely next year. So let's talk about your training, because I know a lot of women would be interested in to hear like your daily routine as far as you get up, you have breakfast, you train in the morning. How many for an hour, a couple of hours, do you do splits? Stuff like that.
Okay. Let's do full disclosure, complete honesty. I was gifted with random athletic ability. If you're looking for someone to find a good training regime or something very serious, I am not that person. However, I was a dental hygienist for 40 years. And when the dentist I worked for retired, I did a career switch. And I since I'd liked doing athletic things, I'd always wanted to check into becoming a fitness trainer, which I did. I took a 6-month course and I now do. I am a fitness trainer and I compete in track and field. And yet I'm not that person who gets up and does split sessions and does a million things. I keep active. And what keeps me active and doing things is because in my mind, I'm in training for track and field. If I were going to a gym to work out just to work out, that's not my mindset. I don't think I would do it. And that's another thing I'd like to do to encourage people. Once you start doing track and field, you are now an athlete and you are in training. And if that encourages you, which I think it will, to be more active on a daily basis, to park further away, to walk more, but not get bogged down with what you think is a huge necessary training schedule. Javelin's my main event, and I do train for that. 2-3 times a week, I will train for that. I do some specific stretches on a daily basis because you have to be flexible to throw the javelin. But I also do sprints and long jump and triple jump and shot put and discus and all these other things, which I don't train for. And I want to win when I get out there and I'm there with people who train for that all the time. And I'm fairly successful, but there's just not enough time in the day. And I'm doing this to have recess. Okay. So, staying in as good a shape, getting in as good a shape as you can at any age so that you can go out and do that is my main focus. Maybe not for everyone and not what you expected to hear, but that's what I do.
No, and I love that approach too, because even though, like for me, going to the gym and lifting weights, especially if I'm in a show 5 to 6 days a week, that's what I have to do in order for me to gain muscle. And, I'm a flight attendant. So if I'm, up all night or if I didn't get enough sleep, or if I'm flying back from overseas and then I need to come home and I have to go to the gym to get a workout in, sometimes I'm just too tired and I just don't want to do that. A lot of times I'll force myself to do it. And once I'm there, I'm good. But I like your whole approach of, whatever you do, look at it as recess. That's something that you enjoy to do and that you want to show up for versus, oh my God, I have to do this,
Right.
You're going through the motions, versus being there with joy.
Right. And that's it. And for anyone who may be listening, we are both trying to encourage to start to do these things. It's that first step. It's breaking inertia. It's just signing up for that track meet. It's showing up at that track meet. And honestly, if you hadn't trained in anything, it just happened yesterday. We'll help you at these meets. And I'm telling you, there's nothing quite like it, but it's that first step. It's just putting yourself out there. You won't regret it.
You won't. I just interviewed a gal a couple podcasts ago. She's 78 and she is a top mud runner and Spartan racer. And she just got started a couple years ago also too. Her son, I guess, and daughter-in-law are big racers, and she would always go and watch. And then finally she's like, I want to do that. And then the son's like, Mom, you can't do that. You can't do that. She goes, I can do it. I think I can do it. And literally the same thing, just showed up.
Yeah.
And, I think I've never done a Spartan race, and I've always been like, oh my God, you have to run, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I don't really run anymore because I have this degenerative disc disease, going on in my lower back. But she's like, Helen, she goes, you can just walk the whole 3 miles if you want to. And if you don't want to do one of the obstacle courses, you don't have to do it. You just have to do burpees instead. And I go, what? That would give me incentive to do the obstacle versus doing the burpees.
Yeah, right.
But she said, she goes, there's people there from all different sizes and shapes, and people are in great shape and people are very serious. And then there's people who just go out there for fun. And she's like, there's one in November in Phoenix. And she goes, I think you should do it. And so I talked to her about training, and she said, she lives out in Tucson, outside of Tucson. So she's like, I just went out and hiked. She goes, because you have to have a lot of glute and leg strength. And she goes, I went out literally and hiked. And she said, and that was my training initially. And I'm like, wow. So anyway, but you're right, though. She had the mentality just like, I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to do it. I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. And I just thought, you know what? That might be something fun. That might be on the bucket list, just to go out and just try, just to say I did it.
Exactly. And for what it adds to your life. And it's not about comparing yourself. I am competing with amazing athletes. But it's not about how I compare to them for me. It's what I can do. It's me trying to do better for me. And not in a selfish way. It's just real.
These track meets that you go to, everybody is like so encouraging, and you get up into the ring and everybody's screaming for you and clapping for you and whatever. And just like you said, if I come out of the ring and I probably at the national meet, it's one of the worst meets I've had all year. I was just off. I just couldn't get my groove together. But what I appreciated though is people like you or some of the other gals were like, you need to do this or do that and, point this and blah, 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 and giving me like little tips, which I'm like, this is great. I love it. So it's so, rewarding just to go there because you're nervous enough as it is, but you really not, everybody's just kind of sitting around. It's like you bring your chair and your blanket and, you just hang out, and it is what it is. So that's another great thing about the whole camaraderie thing.
That's the field events. It's a little different for the sprints. You just kind of see each other at the beginning, say, I'll see you at the end. It's not quite as engaging or interactive. That's why for people that are starting, I recommend trying the field events. So maybe you're not the fastest runner, or do that if you'd like to try. But the field events, between your attempts, you're sitting there, and we only want to help you. You getting better makes us have more fun.
So what about, give me some examples of like your most memorable like track meets.
Oh boy. Well, I think the one that comes to mind is the first international track meet I went to. And I only went because a dental hygiene roommate of mine said, sure, I'll go to Finland with you. So, okay, I went. And that was about 4 or 5 years into me competing. Javelin was, for whatever reason, very important to me. And thank goodness I chose that instead of shot put, because I don't think I would have gone as far with shot put. But I went to this international track meet, and there was this woman from the Philippines who had like the entire Philippines with her. And it made me so nervous. And I just wanted to do so well. And we were competing in, and as a woman who didn't grow up in real competitive sports, and my nature, I just don't have that real ego or competitive thing in me. So it was pretty traumatic, but I managed to hold it together. And at the end, on my last throw, when I had won, I swear there was not a cloud in the sky. And both my parents had previously passed away. But after that last throw in Finland, it started to rain. So don't ask me how, but that just was an amazing memory that I won't forget. The other thing is Huntsman.
Boy, joy from above.
With Huntsman, in my mind, I'm doing my Olympics, and Huntsman makes you feel like you're at the Olympics. At least in the past, when we were there, they would have an opening ceremony with skydivers and fireworks and people dancing with all different flags from all different countries. And I sat there in that stadium and I was in tears. I mean, that was my Olympics. And that's just one of the reasons why I keep going back to Huntsman year after year. It's just that feeling there. it's not just a track meet. It's not just basketball. It's not just whatever. It is an amazing experience. Somebody the other day called me the mayor of Huntsman. I am not. I'm not an official anything there, but it just has become such a part of my life and something that's added so much to my life. So if we're encouraging and if we're recommending the Huntsman World Senior Games in St. George, Utah, which is in the beginning of October every year, if you want an experience, that's a good one, a great one, and that's a good goal to prepare for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll definitely at the end of the podcast, I'll give the website for Huntsman, because when I first heard about it and I looked on the website, I was amazed at how many different sporting events were available to, individual as well as team too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's something for everyone. And I don't know how much everybody knows about track and field, but Masters track and field and senior games, you compete in 5-year age groups. I, at 70, I'm not competing against 50-year-olds. And they keep records and things like that. And so my world record is an age group world record. I have not beat the Olympians. So, yeah.
Well, and that's just even better, because I don't know, for bodybuilding, they have age categories too, but you can also, if I'm 60, I can compete in the 50 and the 40 if I want to.
Oh, interesting.
Not that I want to, but there are girls who do, and they're doing it just to do it. I'm like, I can't compete against a 40-year-old. I mean, no.
Yeah. I think there should be height and weight categories too, to be honest, but no. In track and field, it's age group.
Right. And that's I think that's even more rewarding for me when I heard that. And then when I turned 65 last year, and I thought, woo, I'm in a new age.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really makes you happy to get older, and there aren't that many things that do, but moving up and being the youngest one in an age group is a thrill.
Yeah, it truly is. Have you had any memories of track meets that you were like, oh my gosh, and that have not been like at the top of your list? Things that may have happened or something.
Not many. I mean, there's always some experience or some person or something. My performance might not be great, but there's always something. But there was one meet at Huntsman, and again, to be 100% truthful, there aren't many times that I lost in the javelin, but I was having not my best day. And I couldn't remember another time where I came in second in the javelin, but I did. And there's a really, really nice man. Rob de Avalar is a photographer who just goes around and he photographs track and field athletes. And he's such a nice guy. He knows how to make women look good, especially older women when we don't look so good. He somehow manages to pull out a picture where we look good. Anyway, I was talking with him just because he's a nice man. And he said, this is what makes you appreciate more when you're able to do well. And I was, yeah, you're right. And so that wasn't a horrible experience, but that was one that wasn't my favorite. It's been interesting. Track and field has helped me to learn quite a bit about myself. I am a quintessential late bloomer in a lot of ways, but I didn't have a lot of confidence. And I'm learning a lot through the friends that I've met, through just things, the little struggles that you go through, to pushing your own limits. It's been a very important part of my life, not the medals, though. I thought you might ask how many medals I had, and I spent a day counting, and I now have the totals.
Well, see, aren't you glad you have the totals now?
yeah, I got the totals right here. So here's the thing. When I first started track and field, we had made the wallpaper in my bedroom You can see it behind me.
Yeah, for the people who can't obviously see her. She's in an office type setting, and the medals and the plaques and the awards and everything is it's very impressive.
And that's nothing. You're just seeing behind my head. So it started ridiculously. We'd made that wallpaper, and when I completed my first track meet, I asked my husband, "Can I pin these medals on the wall?" And he goes, "Sure. I don't care what you do." It goes all the way around our bedroom. Every inch is covered with medals. And then when I became a fitness trainer, sorry about that noise in the background, I have a studio in my home, and we put up like these little tracks around there, and I went all the way around, and then we had to put another track and another track and another track. I am just about out of space, and I have no idea where I'm going to put these medals, but I've kind of kept everyone and pinned it up. I gave one medal away to a woman who'd always wanted a medal at Huntsman. Oh. And that was very memorable for me. And she was so happy to get it. And I'm starting to give some to my grandson, but I take a picture of the medal and pin the picture up on the wall. So I now have a pretty darn accurate count. As crazy as it seems, I have 930 total medals as of yesterday. And that is ridiculous. But here's the thing. I do all these different events, right? And people have said, well, why don't you do like a heptathlon, a decathlon? Why don't you do that? I said, but you only get one medal. And see, when I do these others, so that's what happens. It is an embarrassing total. But of course, now that I see it's 930, you want to get 1,000, right?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm so glad I asked you. That's awesome.
You know what? You gave me a headache, but I did count them all. So now I know.
And the room that you're sitting in is freaking huge. When you move the camera, and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it really pans out to the side over there. It's like, look at that. That's unbelievable.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy and ridiculous. But I also have pictures up there of different moments and different people. And it means a lot. And if I didn't say enough about the people that I've met through track and field, wow. Talk about the most important. I've met some amazing people that are impressive just for the people that they are, not how athletic they are. Mm-hmm. And I'm very grateful for that. I've met some of my best friends through there, some of the people I admire most there. And just like yesterday, it's all about the hugs and the connections that you make with these people. I feel so lucky. Hugs are good for you. And I never even really thought about it, but I'm hugging officials. I'm hugging, competitors. And it was funny. I met a new person yesterday who was kind of standing behind. I've never seen her before. We talked just briefly, but at the end, we were getting medals, and I had some of my teammates there, and we're hugging each other, and I saw her, and I waved, and she puts her arms out really big. She wanted that hug, and I thought, oh my God, this is so good. This is so much a part of, that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, no, everybody who I've interviewed with track and field, I interviewed Flo Myler, I've interviewed Carla DeGrand.
Yeah.
And then, Dot. And, Dot was kind of funny, too, because she's won a lot of medals like you, not as many, but 400 and something. And she's at a point now where she takes the medal and she'll take a picture of it, and then she just gives it back. Recycle it, use it next year for somebody else. And she goes, I don't really have anywhere to put these medals anymore. And I just thought that was hilarious, too. So,
yeah.
But it really, and what's really great too is that you can look at every single medal and you remember, it gives you a flashback. I went back to my 45th high school reunion, and we went to the high school for whatever reason. And I walked in, hadn't been there in, years and years and years. and my best friend in high school and I went together, and she started yelling, Helen, you got to come over here. And I went over, and in the trophy case, my picture is still in the trophy case.
Oh, wow.
It just gave me shivers to see me as a little senior in high school in my track uniform.
Oh, my.
I thought, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I mean, I was back in the 70s. So it's just like, it's just crazy how you can look at a certain thing and it just takes you right back, So, yeah. So we're getting ready to close up shop here. What are a couple of things that you can offer women or advise or encourage women to do to take that first step?
Other than signing up, other than just putting yourself out there, I'm not sure what more I can do. Give them my number, have them call me. I'll encourage them over the phone. I don't know what else to do.
Well, I think you're a prime example, as well as all the other ladies too, that, movement is the key to longevity. It really is. And if you don't continue to move, then you're going to be losing your livelihood. And that's, and it's like, I went on a big family vacation back in May. The very first 2 hours into the trip in Lisbon, Portugal, I did a face plant on a cobblestone street. I missed a curb. It was a really small curb. And I was talking, and we had just finished a tour. We were walking to lunch, and bam, straight down. And I'm laying there in the street, and I'm like, oh my God. And I get up, and my brother's like, are you okay? You want to go to the hospital? What do you want to do? And I realized I'd sprained my ankle, and I thought I may have broken my elbow. My elbow was so swollen and distorted, and I hurt my knee. And I'm like, I still want to go to lunch. I need a glass of wine now, but let me assess. So we did that. I went back to the hotel. I iced. I stopped at a drugstore, got a brace and some like antibiotics, or some like over the counter stuff. But I went to the hospital the next day, and the doctor was like, "You're 66 years old," and he said, "You must have bones of steel," he said, because, listening to you, he goes, "You wouldn't believe all the people that come in, tourists, who are breaking things left and right in those cobblestone streets." And I said, "Oh, well, I lift weights, 5 times a week, 4 times a week." And I just had a DEXA scan done, and it came back really, really well. And I know that's what saved me. And it didn't ruin the vacation. I was out of commission for like a day and a half or 2 days, but I had that ankle brace on, and I still got out and walked. And I may have walked a little slow, but didn't stop me at all. And I just thought, oh my God. I looked at it as a blessing, and like, not as a curse, like it's ruined my vacation. I thought, oh my God, I'm so happy that I'm strong, because, just being strong, staying active, moving, it really, really is the key to longevity. And you're a prime example.
You made me think of something, though. There are some people that think, when they look at people doing athletic things, they're so lucky they don't have an ache and pain, they don't have this or they don't have that. Don't kid yourself. These people who are out there, all of us have issues. We're older, we have aches and pains, but we're doing stuff, and we're much happier doing these things. I think that's an encouraging message that we can give to people. It's not just those people doing that are lucky. No, they're older, they're that age, and they have a lot of the same issues you do, but they're out there having fun. And how can that not add something to your life?
And that is a perfect way to end the conversation. Linda, if people really did want to reach out to you and ask you questions about track and field, or try to get a hold of you, do you have a website, or do you have somehow people could reach you?
I don't have a website. I have an email address.
Okay. And I have that. Yeah, so I can include.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, of course they can. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to people. I'm happy to encourage anyone. If it gives them a millionth of what track and field and has done for my life, I am happy to share that with them. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. You're so encouraging. I still need to get my cardio in, and I'm gonna, as soon as I hang up with you, I'm gonna go out and get it done.
There you go. All right. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I made it so difficult to pin me down.
Oh, no. I'm just thrilled that we finally got together.
Well, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
I sure hope you enjoyed that conversation with Linda, and here are some takeaways. Number one, first and foremost, Linda stresses several times throughout our conversation that you can be any age to start your own story. So many women that I have interviewed were never athletes in their younger years, and then for whatever reason, midlife, decided to get into athletics. Now, Linda was an athlete in her earlier years. However, she found her passion and her joy at age 50 throwing that stick, as she states, in track and field. And she, to this day, has never looked back, breaking national and world records along the way. All you have to do is start, she states. The first step will always be hardest, but it will get easier if you stick with it. Number two, mindset truly is key. And when you look at participating in a sport as recess, you can't help but have fun. And that's the name of the game for Linda. Every track meet I have seen her at, she shows up with a posse and they're all having a good time. Camaraderie and community, a winning combination on and off the field. And finally, age truly is irrelevant in the track and field arena, and I have witnessed that firsthand. It's overwhelmingly so inspiring to see women like Linda and my previous guests, 90-year-old Dot Sowerby, 89-year-old Flo Myler, 70-year-old Carla DeGrand, all track and field world champions in their current age brackets, continuing to compete while motivating and inspiring other women along the way. Movement and being active are truly the keys to longevity, and it all begins with that first step. So what are you waiting for? Now, if you'd like to get a hold of Linda, you can email her at evergreenmom@hotmail.com. You can reach me at helen@ageisirrelevant.com. And if you like this podcast, please share it with someone who will also find it valuable. You can check out my website at www.ageisirrelevant.com. I have some free downloads that are available, as well as online fitness and nutrition coaching options and a 6 weeks macro through menopause course. And as always, I greatly appreciate your patronage and look forward to bringing you my next episode of the Age is Irrelevant podcast. And until next time, take care and bye-bye.